My name's Jeffrey Colllins. I'm with the Associated Press, and this is the 11th execution I've covered in South Carolina. I've covered 9 lethal injection executions. I covered an execution in the electric chair in 2004, but this was the first firing squad execution I've ever covered because it is the first firing squad execution in the state of South Carolina, and only just the first since 2010 as well. Every execution is different, and certainly the firing squad was a very different type of execution. For the one thing, it's the only execution that I've ever been to where I've seen blood. In this one, the curtain opens and Brad Sigmon, who is the condemned inmate, he's strapped into a chair and there's a target over his heart. And typically when the curtain opens and I'm witnessing an execution, there's not a lot of activity. There's a final statement read, and during a lethal injection, you see the execution start. There's a little bit of breathing, but typically it's over. In this case, they had to put a hood over his head. There was a target already over his heart, and then you just waited.
The punishment sentence of Brad Keith Sigmon was carried out tonight.
Once the hood was put over his head, it was about 90 seconds to about 2 minutes before the shots were fired. And during that time, there's a lot of anxiety. Because obviously you could see that Brad Sigmon was breathing very heavily. He was taking some very deep breaths. And so you're just waiting until you hear that sound. And when you finally did hear the crack of the gunfire, everyone in that room tensed up a little bit. I know, I flinched. I think everyone in that room flinched. I even heard a gasp. And then it's over. You could see a small red stain over his chest that was maybe the size of my fist or a kiwi. It was kind of irregular shaped. You could see a couple of breaths being drawn, maybe what looked like his chest moved once or maybe twice or so. And then a doctor comes in, but it all goes by very quickly. A lethal injection might take 20 minutes from start to finish. From the time the curtain opened to the time death was declared was 7 minutes, maybe a little less than that. It was probably maybe 25 feet from where I'm sitting to where Brad Sigmon is, probably from the window, maybe just 20 feet. So you're on top of all this stuff that's happening. It's not happening at a distance. It's happening right in front of you. And, part of witnessing this is it's important to tell the public what happened. The state of South Carolina, through its elected representatives, decided a few years ago they wanted to include a firing squad in our execution methods. So my role is to tell people what they voted for through their representatives, to tell them that this is what it looks like when someone's killed by a firing squad. This is how it happens, and this is how it occurs. And I've thought that way all through the 11 executions that I have. It's a very somber, it's a very important thing to do, and I think it's a critical part if we're going to have the death penalty in the society to be able to tell people what it looks like, what it sounds like, and what actually happens.